Hi, everybody. Jean Humbrecht with Humbrecht Law here, criminal and traffic defense attorney in Manassas, Virginia. Welcome to our weekly local business spotlight. And September's theme for my events is planning for the future. And so today we have a very special guest, David Hillelsohn of DHill Financial. David works with health insurance, life insurance, long-term care, disability insurance, and those are all things that we all really need to know about so that we have things in place before we get into a situation that we didn't plan for and then find out it might be too late to do something about it. So David, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what it is you do, and then I'll just start popping in with questions. Oh, and before we do that, just want to make sure I tell everybody, leave a note in the comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Type a question in there if you have anything. I don't think anything will be off limits, at least for what David and I are qualified to speak about. So feel free to type something in there and we will try to get to it. And if we don't get to it today, we'll get back to you later. So David, handing it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jean. My name is David Hillelsohn. I own DHill Financial, an independent insurance practice in the life and health insurance space. And DHill Insurance just didn't sound very cool, so I went with DHill Financial, but I am an insurance broker and not a financial planner. An insurance broker means that I don't work for an insurance company. I'm an independent broker, which means I access insurance companies through wholesalers so that I can be impartial with my clients. I started my own practice 4 years ago after 26 years as an insurance wholesaler. And so I know the ins and outs of how insurance companies operate, and now I use that to the benefit of my clients and partners. Happy to be here, Jean.
Thanks. So that's actually something that a lot of people might not know about, because I didn't know about it or really think about it until I was looking into new health insurance a couple of years ago. I did not even know that an individual could assist me. I have spent countless hours on the phone in the past with different insurance companies trying to figure out what plan was the best. And then once I found out that I could actually go to the broker, who is the middleman, I guess, for lack of a better word, to do that for me, I was very relieved. And maybe a lot of people don't really know about it. So can you maybe explain to them, what the benefit is of working with somebody like you instead of obvious, calling 10 different insurance companies and trying to find out what the best plan is?
Yeah, I'll say that when I started my own practice, I didn't think I'd be writing health insurance at all. I would actually introduce myself and say, I'm David. I do life insurance, disability, long-term care insurance, health insurance by request only. And people would say, oh, you do health insurance? And what I found is that it was an area of great need and passion. There's one thing for people to be concerned about money, but they're even more concerned about their health. And so, as you said, where people can contact insurance companies directly, insurance companies are not designed to provide support all around the country. And so they very often work through wholesalers and independent agents where we can provide the same pricing and plans as if someone were going direct to an insurance company. But in the health insurance space in particular, now where people can go through the exchange to buy individual and small group health insurance, on the small group side, the platform is now to work with brokers like myself. And so if someone went online to look at health insurance through healthcare.gov and they were a small business, they would actually get patched over to someone like me to provide that sort of counseling and help. I am paid by the insurance companies. I am not paid by the buyer or the consumer. And so a lot of times I will say that people get me for free, even though I'm willing to discount that by 50%. I'm not sure what half of free is. But I think even more than that, when I'm talking to small business clients today, one of the things I like to articulate to them is that my compensation is not tied to the plan that they select, so that we can really have an unbiased conversation about what is going to be right for them and what makes sense, instead of someone thinking, all right, well, is he incented to sell this plan over this plan? More and more as what the influences are, And for me, the influence is simply to help people sleep better at night, knowing that they're getting unbiased counseling from someone in the space for 30 years. Um, that when something goes wrong, they know that I'm the one that can help get that fixed. So again, pricing is set by the insurance carriers. It's approved by the state insurance departments. My job is just to help analyze the plans and try to make the right match.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up because people probably do think about that. They think, how can this person be making any money? They would have, if I'm not paying this person to find insurance for me, how do they get paid? I mean, is there a cost tacked onto the insurance premium that I'm paying? And the answer is no, as you just explained. You're paid by the insurance company, and that is not affected by whether somebody gets a plan that costs a lot of money or doesn't cost a lot of money for them. Right.
I mean, ultimately, insurance companies are required to pay 80 cents out of every dollar back in benefits. So when we analyze the plans, recognize that the cost of the plan is going to dictate copays, out-of-pocket limits, deductibles. All of those things are going to be tied to the premium that we're paying for the plan.
So
I think one of the things that people... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so in terms of planning for the future, what would happen if somebody did not get insurance or, has a plan that turns out not to be a good plan for them? Like something happens, they need a procedure for them to get diagnosed with something, and let's say they don't have insurance. What can they do? Can they get insurance when they find out that something has happened?
Individual buyers of health insurance today, you can only buy health insurance at certain times of the year. We have an open enrollment in November, which is the federal open enrollment where individuals...
Looks like I lost David. I'm just going to keep talking. Hopefully he will sign back on. This is what happens when you go live. The extent that to the extent I know about open enrollment, it's between November 1st and December 15th. And then the insurance would kick in, I believe, January 1st of the following year. I think David's trying to get back in here. I just explained what open enrollment.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I just explained what open enrollment was.
Again,
November 1st.
Planning for the unexpected also includes rainstorms that were a little unexpected there as well. So apologies for that. As I was saying, you can only buy health insurance at certain times of the year as an individual, and you need a qualifying to do so. Losing previous coverage would be a qualifying event. Having a baby is a qualifying event. Getting divorced is a qualifying event. And then where we would have to take action in order to secure a new plan. For self-employed and small businesses, they can actually set up a small business plan at any time during the year. So the rules are a little different for individuals. Again, they either need to buy during the federal open enrollment or have a qualifying event. Small businesses can set up plans at any time during the year.
Okay. So if you're
if you're talking about someone that's not covered,
right.
the only option for someone that may not be covered, that doesn't have a qualifying event, is potentially to get temporary coverage. Temporary coverage is less expensive, but it is temporary coverage. And so it doesn't cover pre-existing conditions, and you can't keep it indefinitely.
Oh, okay. So how long could somebody have temporary coverage for? A couple months, kind of a thing?
Yeah, the rules have changed because people want more options and access to health insurance. So you can get temporary coverage here. But again, recognizing that unlike what you would find in traditional health insurance, where there are no pre-existing condition limitations. If you buy a plan, you get full coverage, but also there's no cap on the maximum amount of benefit available in a traditional plan. Short-term medical coverage would cap not only previous health conditions, but what they would cover going forward. So it may have a $250,000 or a $500,000 cap as to traditional health insurance that works with no cap.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It simply means that people shouldn't be left out with nothing if they need something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I didn't even know that existed, temporary coverage. But that goes into planning for the future, the whole theme, which we all need to do more of. Like, for example, what I just said, I wouldn't have even thought, if we weren't having that conversation, I wouldn't have thought about it until I found myself in a position where I needed it. And then, you have to scramble. So I guess that brings me into my next topic. If you want to talk a little bit about life insurance and long-term care, we have had some guests before talk about life insurance, but if you could just, briefly, because maybe some of the viewers haven't seen those videos, tell us a little bit about what life insurance is, why we need it, and anything else you want to throw in there.
Sure. I mean, it is Life Insurance Awareness Month, so it does fit for the conversation. And, I think the primary reason people buy life insurance is to replace lost income for those that are depending upon us, right? So if we have kids we want to send to school, if we have a home, we want to make sure our family stays in the home. But my primary conversations around life insurance focus on meeting responsibilities and prioritizing meeting responsibilities to influence those that we're trying to influence. So if we say to our kids and family that meeting responsibilities is important, how do we reinforce that through the actions that we take? And life insurance is one of the ways that we can do that. So again, that's probably when people say, I'd like to talk to you about life insurance, my first comment is always why. Why do you think you need life insurance? And from there, we can have a conversation about, the type of insurance, the amount of insurance that someone needs. I generally believe that one life insurance policy is not going to be sufficient, that we typically need 1, 2, or 3 different types of life insurance in order to come up with a comprehensive portfolio. And some of them today, going back to what you just asked me, may also include provisions for long-term care benefits, where traditionally we buy life insurance for others. We are finding today that life insurance policies can also include long-term care provisions that allow us to accelerate the benefit should we need care at some point in the future.
Okay, so if somebody has a life insurance policy, then they could potentially use some of the benefits that they've been accruing over the years if they were to need them, like for long-term care, like a hospice situation or something like that.
Correct. Again, long-term care is a little different than health insurance. Health insurance covers skilled care, treatment of a specific condition by a skilled worker with an end in sight. Long-term care is the ongoing need for help. And that may be home health care, that may be living in an assisted living facility or nursing home. Long-term care is typically either supervision because of cognitive impairment. We recognize we need someone to stay with us so we're safe and secure. It could also be triggered by our need for daily assistance, things like bathing, dressing, getting up and going to the bathroom. We know that it may not take a skilled worker providing that type of help to us, but some help. And so that's what long-term care can do. I think the key with long-term care as it relates to life insurance is recognizing that if our family needs the life insurance, we can't also then count on that for long-term care, right? Because now we're double counting assets that we're thinking that we need for ourselves, let alone, for our family. So again, in terms of proper planning, these are the conversations we have to say,
Looks like we're losing David again. I'm just gonna keep talking. David was just talking about how, we need not only life insurance. There he is. Hold on. Okay.
We're so close. Thanks, Gene. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I just kept talking.
Usually that's my job, right?
So people need to consider all of these things. Obviously, health insurance. We know why we need health insurance. It's for a cognizable existing condition. I don't want to use the word condition, but something that has an end in sight. Long-term care insurance is something that is going to basically continue for the rest of your life. Essentially, that's what the purpose of it is, to assist in living. And then the life insurance is to take care of your, basically replace the income that you no longer make when you die, to go toward your family, to help support your children, etc. Correct?
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
And there is a term for life insurance combined with a long-term care component, and that's typically called a hybrid type of long-term care plan, where you have a hybrid of the death benefit along with benefits that you can utilize during your lifetime.
Okay. Now, the important.
I was just going to say, I can speak sort of personally because my mother is dealing with cancer right now, and she didn't need a long-term care policy, but when she bought it and then was diagnosed with cancer, her first reaction was, I'm so glad I have it. And so there is something about just the peace of mind that comes from planning ahead and knowing that we hope to never use these benefits, but that if we need them, that our needs will be met.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly with what we're talking about, planning for the future, because you never know what's going to happen. And what actually brings me to my next question: if you don't have these plans in place, if you do not have any sort of long-term or disability plan in place, then what happens? What happens if something happens? What happens if you have health insurance, but you can no longer go to work and you need constant care basically for the rest of your life? Like, can you get it? Is it possible to get it, or are you prevented because you didn't get it before something happened?
Correct. So, unlike health insurance, which is guaranteed issue with no pre-existing condition limitations, life insurance, we know, has over 100 years of experience on risk profiles and mortality. They know how to price plans to the smallest percentage. When it comes to life insurance, they may have 20 different rating categories based upon your health. Long-term care insurance is not that developed and sophisticated, but again, it's the same thing. If the house is on fire, you are not going to get coverage. So what would happen there? What would happen is one of two things. Either family members step in to provide help, and family members want to be involved. We just want to make it as easy for them as possible to provide that type of help. And generally, family wants to be involved, providing emotional support and not being the physical caregiver. So family's one, but the other is we would find ourselves using our own resources, right? So the cost of care in our area, if you're in a nursing home, probably $8,000 to $10,000 a month. If you needed home care, it really just depends on how much care you need, right? How frequently do you want someone there? We know that if someone was making $20 an hour and they had to work 24 hours a day, well, that's still $480 a day, or that's still $480 a day. So we know that round-the-clock care at home would be very expensive. The state would come in once you've depleted all but $2,000 of countable assets. So again, personal responsibility says, what's our plan? I think when it comes to long-term care in particular, people understand health insurance, and the idea of long-term care is a little confusing for people, simply based upon the idea that we don't really want to think about a time when we may have to look to others for help. But there is something about being in control, even as it relates to hiring people. When you have the resources, you are still in a position of dignity and control, which is what most people want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So if you don't have the long-term care before something happens, you cannot purchase it. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Correct. Yep. So my mother is dealing with pancreatic cancer. That's one that you cannot go out and buy coverage for once you have that type of diagnosis.
Right.
But I think for me, I get involved in conversations across the board. People at different stages of life, and that's the fun part of the work that I do in my job. Right? It's because I get to talk to people that are from states that have heard or talked to a lot of different people. They have a lot of information, and our conversation is trying to sort through all that and prioritize. Right? Long-term care insurance is something that people tend to purchase one time in their life, and they don't tend to do it until they're in their mid 50s. So again, a conversation around long-term care typically starts at 48 to 52 with someone making that decision into their 50s. By then, most people would argue you may not need as much life insurance. So the life insurance conversations I'm having tend to be more with 30 and 40-year-olds, and health insurance is pretty much, it runs the gamut. I do find myself talking to a lot of new business owners, that are setting up their first medical plan. They may exercise COBRA, continuation of coverage from a previous job. So again, that's the fun part about the work that I do, is that I get to talk to people at different stages of life, figure out where
Mm-hmm.
they're headed, and make sure that that journey, is not met with any surprises.
Mm-hmm.
That's really
Well,
my conversation, right? I'm not the hero of your story. You are. I'm just a guide along the way.
that's a good way of putting it. But depending on the situation that someone's in, they might think that you're the hero of their story if they find you at just the right time, and then they're very glad that they got your advice and listened to what you have to say. And I think the most important part is people actually talking to somebody about all of this, because you're right, nobody likes to think about it, and people that are younger, I'm sure, don't think about it as much as people that are older. I mean, it's just it's the invincibility thing. It's probably just common sense. They probably think, I don't need to worry about that. I can, I don't have kids now. But the whole point is, knowing what your options are, and what you should be doing based on your particular situation, right? Because my situation, it might be different from my neighbor's situation. We're totally, whether we have kids, how many more years of work we conceivably have left, all those things, right?
Yes, I get more life insurance inquiries on Mondays and Tuesdays. So simply because of how people spend their weekends and the things that are on their minds, which again is just it's a funny thing. Different than health insurance, that people probably they put it off as long as they can. I mean, again, I'm a consumer of healthcare, so I certainly understand that feeling. But nowadays, when people run personal ads and it says looking for a friend with benefits, they actually mean health insurance. It's it's such an important part of the dialogue today. In fact, I think it's something that also prevents more people from starting their own businesses, because health insurance is so important and powerful. The one comment I wanted to make, which we didn't, I probably fell off the call, uh, was about the nuance around networks in healthcare, where the tighter the if you have specific doctors, go to the tightest network that they offer, knowing that you already have found the right provider. These insurance companies have different types of networks depending on how regional or national of a scope you want. So it is one of those areas that people don't quite recognize, that they can go to a company like Anthem, and Anthem has multiple networks, right? United Healthcare, multiple networks, even Kaiser Permanente, multiple types of networks. So I think that's one of the big opportunities that I've seen, is helping employers navigate that successfully to try to control their healthcare dollars wherever we can. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that if you haven't looked at the network, and you find that there are opportunities, it could be an easy way to cut 5 to 10% off of your healthcare spending without having any real impact to your actual plan.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. And I think a lot of small business owners, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, might not know that they can get these group plans, that you said are different from the individual plans, and they can start them any time of the year. They don't have to wait for a qualifying event or open enrollment, right?
Correct. That's unique for Virginia. So
Oh,
today I
okay.
was on a call with someone from Washington, D.C. It's a little bit different there. But in Virginia, if you are self-employed, you can set up a group plan. And the advantage of setting up a group plan, you said it, you can do it anytime. The rates are lower. There are more plan choices that are much better.
Hmm.
The one thing you won't get is a subsidy. So if your income supports getting a subsidy through the exchange, that may still be the right way to go. And it's easy for me to help individuals investigate all of that.
Okay. So if somebody wants health insurance, or they want better health insurance, what they think is better health insurance, they should come to you, and you would be able to tell them which way to go, whether they can get a group plan, whether they can well, I guess can go with the subsidy through the I'm blanking on the exchange, right?
Exchange. Yep.
Or go through, because there's different ways to do it, right? You can go through the exchange, or you can just, I don't know what the term is. You can go through the exchange, or you can not go through the exchange, right? It just depends on
Off
if you
exchange.
qualify.
Correct. On
Okay.
exchange, off exchange. On exchange, you
Let's
get a
figure that out.
subsidy.
Okay.
Off exchange, you're just not getting a subsidy. That's all.
Oh,
But again,
okay.
but again, individuals are going to buy on the exchange. Self-employed can buy off exchange if they're not subsidy eligible.
But some
Okay.
individuals can buy off exchange, right?
Individuals would buy on the exchange. If they're buying off exchange right now, that means it's a non-ACA compliant plan. I don't happen to work with any of those. The only option I would have for a non-ACA compliant plan would be short-term medical, which we talked about before.
Okay. Okay. So if you're buying an individual plan, they're supposed to go through the exchange.
Correct. If it's an ACA compliant plan, Affordable Care Act, then it's through the exchange. Correct. Whether you're getting a subsidy or not. So, for example, if
Okay.
someone's not self-employed, I can't sell them a self-employed group plan, right?
Right.
They're going to buy through the exchange, or they're going to buy a non-standard form of healthcare, either short-term medical or something that another company offers.
Okay.
I get judged based upon a predictable outcome. So I want to work with insurance companies that have predictable outcomes. No one likes surprises when it comes to healthcare. And so that just doesn't build a good reputation if there are surprises. So for you, you're judged on wins and losses, right? You're helping people, through tough times in their lives, and I'm judged based on predictable outcomes.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to put it.
Yep. Which is what I like. that way I always win.
That's true.
Right.
David's got something to say about everything. He's well prepared for this conversation. You do always win if the outcomes are predictable, and I won't go down that rabbit hole.
Right. You have a great track record yourself.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else we didn't talk about regarding life insurance or health insurance or long-term care that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. I think we had a great conversation on those areas. It's all about helping people sleep better at night. So I tend to be a moderate when it comes to insurance. I don't believe that you need the maximum amount the carrier offers, which means my conversations tend to be a little different. They just tend to be, where are you in your life and what's going to help you sleep better at night, and we work from there. So I love having the conversation with you, being a business spotlight here. So I certainly appreciate the value you're trying to bring to your community, and that I can play a very small part in that.
Well, I appreciate you being here. And ever since I started doing these local business spotlights, I people seem to like them, and I also like to be able to support businesses that I know and like, whether I do business with the person or not. So I'm grateful that you were able to come on today, because I think everybody learned a lot, actually, in a very short period of time. I knew some of these things, but not even everything that we talked about. And these are really important conversations for people to have, and things for people to think about. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to come on my little local business spotlight. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it, and this will be replayed later. So if you're watching the replay and have any questions for David, feel free to type them in, and we'll get notifications, and we will, well, David, I guess, will get back to you, because he's the one who's qualified to do that. So
awesome.
Well, thanks again so much, and I look forward to seeing you, probably virtually sometime soon.
Thanks again, Gene.
All right, have a good day. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.